Well, good morning and welcome back to our final, say it with me, fabulous segment of CityLine. In the house, I have an organization that I just recently got to see in concert, and I got to tell you, I was pretty blown away by it. Symphony Tacoma. If you have not seen Symphony Tacoma, I'm going to invite you and challenge you to go to their next concert, which we'll have information about, because it rivals, I'm just going to say it rivals the Metropolitan that I saw in New York. I was just like, wow, we have it going on here. So I'm going to stop talking and introduce you to some really wonderful people. Welcome back, Miss Karina Bharne. You are still the brand new executive director at Symphony Tacoma. Welcome, my dear.
Thank you for having us.
Good to have you here. And this handsome man, Svend, you are the Concertmaster for Symphony Tacoma. Welcome back.
Great to be here. Thanks, Amanda.
Give us a peek of the socks. Come on, put it up.
Okay. What am I supposed to?
Oh, just hold them
there
up.
we go. Just
hold
them up.
There we are. Good. Nice.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you have style. We got to show it. And boy, can you play. Unbelievable work that you did in that last concert.
Thanks for coming to our concert.
It was beautiful. And I was thinking simultaneously, and then I saw you do it. I was thinking, how does he keep his arm up there the whole time? And then you put your arm down, finally. I was like, yeah, that's a good break. Mr. Thane Lewis, you are the principal viola. What a beautiful instrument.
Yes.
For Symphony Tacoma. Welcome to CityLine. It's good to have you here. Like I said, after I see you play, I'll fall in love with you too.
Oh,
it's just a matter of time.
Okay.
So, Karina, let's talk about this. The next concert is titled Rainier Sunrise. Tell us what we can expect.
We have a variety of music on this program. So we start out with a piece by a man named Carol Butts. It's called Rainier Sunrise, and it is his depiction of Mount Rainier.
Yes.
Following that is Stravinsky's Pulcinella, which was based on a ballet that he wrote. So we're doing the suite from it, the sets of which were originally created by Picasso.
Oh, learn something new every day if you're lucky.
And then I'll get to Svend and Thane in a second, but the third piece on that program is called Siegfried Idyll. It was written by Wagner to his wife as a symphonic birthday card. And it's basically a lullaby for her, and was written in dedication to their firstborn child.
Forget the jewelry, forget the chocolates and the roses. Honey, I wrote you a symphony. Oh, is that all? Wow, that's impressive. Thank you for that. So, all right, Svend and Thane, you are guest artists for this concert, which is so fabulous. So tell us about the piece you're playing. And Svend, why don't you go first, and then you can fill in.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm going to first say that, Mozart was trained as a violinist, and his father was one of the most famous violin teachers in Europe.
No pressure, Mozart.
No pressure. So I think that's probably why Mozart learned to kind of despise the violin and turned his interest to the viola.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to pass it off to Thane with that.
I love that. Okay, so take it away, Thane.
Well, it's a standard piece for the concertmaster and the principal violist of an orchestra to play. It's a concerto, but it's not extremely difficult. It's kind of mid-range. And it's kind of expected that at some point in your tenure you'll get to play this piece. So we waited, I believe, 20 years to play this.
I guess we
I think
did.
20 years.
Wow.
You're growing up so fast.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There you go.
20 years to play this piece. So speaking of that, Thane, tell us how this came to be that you are with Symphony Tacoma, and what's your background?
Well, I came to the viola in grad school. I was a violinist prior to that. And I received a phone call from the Anchorage Symphony saying, do you play viola? I was a violinist. I said yes, of course, because I had a young family that I needed to support. So on the way to Anchorage, I learned to read the clef and then played symphony. But there, when I got there, Geraldine Walter of the San Francisco Symphony, principal violist, was there, and she was playing the Bartok Concerto. And that's all it took. I heard that, and it was wonderful, and I began more seriously to study the viola.
For those of you who missed this, when he said, so I just read the clef, that's like saying I taught myself how to fly a Boeing 737 by looking at the manual. I mean,
It's just a slightly different language. It's the little dot is one line different. Than
We're all laughing
just
because
computer.
you're so humble and so off the charts intelligent. So don't try this at home; it won't work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. So, and let's talk, Svend, about your journey to the Symphony Tacoma.
Oh golly. Well, I'm from the Northwest.
Yeah.
As Thane, we have known each other, or we have been in the same orchestra since we were kids.
Good stories.
Actually, yeah, that's amazing. I didn't get that call to go to Anchorage, I guess, so I never learned the viola. Not like that anyway. But yeah, I actually did an undergrad at PLU, so I knew Tacoma a long time ago, and then I went away and I had a career on the East Coast for a while, and ended up coming back here, and I was lucky enough to get a teaching position at PLU and also to find myself as the Symphony Tacoma Concertmaster, which is for me just an absolutely dream combination. So
Yes.
all day I'm working with talented and motivated students, and by night I get to be a diva.
I love
mean,
that.
wow.
Thank you. And thank you for bringing all that talent back to our community. So, Thane, in April, you have a very different concert scheduled called Saxophone Fusion. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So it continues the really interesting programming that we've seen in the last two concerts. So the last concert and this one, the tabla concert. I don't know if you were there for the tabla.
I was.
Yeah,
Oh,
wonderful.
I loved it.
Very interesting juxtaposition. So same thing with this. We have Fanny Mendelssohn, an overture by Fanny Mendelssohn, who I won't call Felix's sister.
Thank you.
She's a musician in her own right, an excellent one, very insightful and talented. She received the great compliment as a pianist during her time of being able to play like a man, was what they said about her.
There we go.
So there you
All
go.
right.
She was very good. And following that, I think is a Sinfonietta by Poulenc. And then a comrade of his, Darius Milhaud, it's Creation of the World. You want to do the translation for me?
La création du monde.
That piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Everything sounds better with that.
Which is jazz influenced. He was in America and walking through Harlem and heard some street musicians playing jazz. Went home and wrote this piece. And so I don't know if James Carter is playing in this piece or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's actually taken the place of the violas. There are no violas in this piece. So James Carter and the violas are kind of on the same level.
Look at that.
Yeah.
You got to definitely show up for that one.
Yeah.
So okay, and Svend, tell us about what we can expect with that full orchestra with James Carter.
All right. Well, James Carter, first of all, I think the best thing about him is that his cousin is a great jazz violinist.
Yeah. Thank you.
Actually, no. This is an interesting thing. They're both from Detroit, and they kind of come to jazz from opposite spectrums. So Regina Carter started in classics and moved over to jazz, and I think her cousin did the opposite, started in jazz and is now sort of moving into the classical world, or at least doing some fusion. So it'll be an interesting mixture of this. It'll be like having, John Coltrane in front of us, basically.
Absolutely.
It should be really, really amazing that way. And the pieces that he's going to play by Roberto Sierra, I don't know what, Roberto Sierra is kind of like the George Gershwin of Puerto Rican music.
I love
but
that.
And when I think of Caribbean music, I think of percussion, but
I do
this
too.
is a piece for saxophone and string orchestra.
All right, people, get your tickets.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. So last 2 minutes before we have these gentlemen walk over and get themselves ready to just invade the studio with heavenly sounds. Karina, the Mini Maestro series, tell us about that.
We have 4 mini maestros a year, and the goal of them is for kids ages 2 through 8 to experience classical music and to get to touch and play these instruments. So the first one we had was in January. That's where we brought in a string quintet. Before the concert started, we have something called an instrument petting zoo, where you can come up and try the violin, you can try the viola, try the cello, try the bass. We had a brass one this past February, and then coming up on the 24th in March, we have percussion. So you might be thinking it's just a snare drum, but no, there are a lot of instruments in the percussion family. And then our last one is the culmination, and that is Peter and the Wolf, where we have basically the full orchestra. So you get to hear a variety, and the kids get to come up on stage and sit and so they can feel like they're part of their performance too.
Oh, I love that. Nothing says children's interaction than Prokofiev's Peter and the Wolf.
Right.
Because it's just so wonderful. All right, so what else do we have before the season ends in May? And gentlemen, pretty soon I'm going to give you a little cue to go walk over.
All right.
Hang tight for a second.
We have Beethoven's Ninth Symphony coming up on May 11th.
Wow. Okay, that's going to be a sellout.
We hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all kind of gearing toward that. Okay, so gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and
Right.
walk over and get yourself warmed up. Karina, for all of this, who do we need to thank?
We need to thank Pacific Lutheran University, South Sound Magazine, and the Hotel Murano, who are our concert sponsors for Rainier Sunrise. And then we'd also like to thank our venue, Tacoma Arts Live, for the beautiful new shell and the beautiful new renovations that we have. We'd just like to thank them for being good partners for us.
All right, good enough. Well, that wraps up another great segment of CityLine. It is always a pleasure and a privilege to be in your home. We've given you some great stuff to think about in this last hour. So go out there, be a part of the tapestry, and above all, pay it forward. And when you come back, as always, we'll be waiting for you right here at CityLine. Gentlemen, take it away.